think we mentioned several reference books and a guidebook. And I think we should mention that the students should not confine themselves to the guidebook only.
Definitely yes, because we see that you should be able to pass the exam following the guidebook, but if you want to achieve a higher grade, students should explore other avenues of knowledge, not only restricting themselves to the guidebook, because the guidebook is very restrictive. Like, there is only a limited amount of knowledge, but students should learn much more than we expect them to, so that they should achieve a higher grade in their examinations.
I think simply reading the books, the reference books or the guidebooks is not sufficient. So there are we have developed some activities around this course, so that are focused on helping students to achieve this course outcome. Can you briefly mention some of the activities?
Well, yes. Now it's basically in the syllabus we've actually mentioned some activities. So this is another answer to the question, like what activities should I do to learn them. So students should get this question into their mind, like what should I do to learn this, what is expected of me. So learning activities on the syllabus is one way of them learning the new things they have to learn. And also the LMS hosts a lot of learning activities, much more than we mentioned in the syllabus. So these should actually help them to learn and practice, so that they get to know on a hands-on experience what computer systems really is.
Do we have an example of an activity?
Yes, like if I go on to maybe the next or rather slide down our presentation, some of them are like categorize the components, that is input, output, storage, memory and other. So we will be listing a large amount of input, output, storage, memory, components involved in a computer system, and students should be able to put them into specific categories and also match the components to their functionality. Like for example, if we say output a hard copy, then the student should be able to match it to a printer. It's something as an example like that. So we expect students to be able to do that as well. And also there are many more activities in the LMS, so it is important that students do follow these.
I'm sure the most important questions that most students have is about the exam and how we are going to assess them.
Yes, now that is actually we say that everything is based on assessment. So students' main aim is to pass the exam, so we call it assessment, and we assume that learning is driven by assessment. So the basic thing is we actually have two assessments, online assessments. So it is important that students do follow these online assessments, so they can log into the LMS, and there will be one assessment at the end of the first half of the course and another assessment at the end of the second half of the course. And also there will be a final examination, which will be a written paper. It won't be online, so students can sit for this paper as well for them to pass the exam. And it is important that students do both assessments and the final exam to get through this particular course.
So those are some of the questions that we have identified, and some of the questions that you may already have. Maybe we can go through them in detail now, and shall we start from the learning outcome?
Yes. So if you look at the learning outcome, like for example, like the answers to this course are listed down by me. So we have students should first understand the overall learning outcome of this course. So if we mention it for the specific course, it is on completion of this course, you will have the fundamental knowledge to install, configure, maintain and troubleshoot a computer system. So the students should gain this knowledge, but offhand they cannot, like in one go they will not be able to. So we have defined certain sub-learning outcomes. So the overall course has a main learning outcome, and each chapter has a certain set of sub-learning outcomes. So one thing they should be able to do this overall course outcome is to describe the main components of a computer system. So that is an example of a sub-learning outcome. So when they are able to identify or describe the main components, they know that the computer system is made up of that, and then they can move on to more complex things, and ultimately they should be able to have the fundamental knowledge to install, configure, maintain and troubleshoot a computer system. So those are the learning outcomes which are very important that students understand and follow, so that they should be able to achieve that, and that is what is important, because that is what we will be assessing at the end of the course.
So they should keep their focus on the learning outcome, and all the other resources are provided to achieve that learning outcome.
Yes.
So one resource is the reference books and the LMS and the guidebook. Can we go into a little bit more details about these?
Yes. Now, Peter Norton's Introduction to Computer 6th edition, it's our first reference, and it is important to follow this book because it has a very simple way of expressing, disseminating knowledge to students. So students should be able to easily understand this, and we have, it is important that we have specified very clearly the pages that they need to follow. So we have made the students' life a little bit easier by specifying the particular pages that they need to follow, and it is in very simple language. And the second reference is Kotmala's Upgrading and Repairing PCs, the 16th edition, and this is also a very simple book, but it is a very comprehensive book. Like, there is more knowledge than needed for the computer systems 1 module. So here also we have very specifically stated the page numbers, so that students need to follow that.
So we have identified several resources, but we did not simply name the resources like the handbooks and the reference books. We also identified the exact pages, so to make the life easier for the students. But we should mention that don't confine yourself to those pages and just the handbook.
Yes, for example, like if I take in the first chapter, section 1.1, the parts of a computer system, we have actually specifically stated, like for example, we have said reference 1 page 25 to 27, reference 2 page 26, 33 to 36, and reference note. So when we have said reference note, it basically refers to the student guidebook. So it is important that we cannot learn about parts of a computer system by just reading maybe 5 or 6 pages. So we have to explore the larger world and find out what we really need to learn and what additional information we can gain. So